Welcome to the Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
My name's Abdullah.
And my name is Imad.
We're the Holistic Kids, here to educate us kids from the inside out. Have you ever realized that year after year, asthma, allergies, eczema are all becoming the new norm? From one table to two to three every year, it seems like there are more and more nurses' offices, more and more EpiPens, and now it has become the new norm. Allergies and other sicknesses are on the rise and have also become the new norm, which is not good. And what we are seeing in the classroom is such a sad reality. Obesity, eczema, allergies, diabetes, cancer, and even autism is on a huge rise in kids.
With 1 in 36 children and having autism, and that is actually up from 1 in 44 in 2018 and 150 in 2000. So it just keep going up and up and up and up, and soon it might even be like 1 in 5.
And that's what I think my mom was talking about. 1 in 5 people. That's a lot in the world. That's a lot.
What is going on? Why is this not an international emergency?
Well, that's why there's one organization on the front lines giving hope to so many. Documenting hope. And actually,
this was the very first interview we have ever done with Beth Lambert. They did that.
Yeah.
Dr. Beth Lambert, or an educator, author, and former healthcare consultant, Beth Lambert has monitored and documented the escalating rates of childhood chronic conditions for over a decade. Her first book, A Compromised Generation, provides a thorough analysis of the origins of this modern health crisis, and documents how modifications to environmental and lifestyle factors can profoundly influence health outcomes, including full disease reversal. Beth is also the co-author of Brain Under Attack, a resource for parents and caregivers of children with PANDAS, or PANDAS, not the animal, and autoimmune encephalitis. Beth is also the founder and executive director of Epidemic Answers. We are so honored to have you here with us today.
Again.
Well,
I can't believe it's been 4 years. You guys all got a little taller, but I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah.
Well, it's our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
After 4 years, we took a little different. We're a lot different than now. And we have done over 140 episodes, so we have a little bit more experience. Just a little bit technically. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Let's jump right into this. What is going on? Why are us kids getting sicker and sicker?
Yeah. So a number of years ago, before I did the podcast with you guys, I wrote a book called The Compromised Generation. And the reason that I wrote this book is because I was concerned that something was happening to each subsequent generation, and the kids seemed to be getting sicker and sicker. And as you mentioned, the rates of autism have gone from, they actually in 1970 were like 2 in 10,000 kids to now, as you said, 1 in 36 kids, right? So something's happened. And the same things happened with allergies, asthma, all the things that you mentioned, everything's on the rise. So what's happened is that we are living in an environment that is different from the way that people have lived for thousands and thousands of years. So human beings evolved over time to live in harmony with nature, to eat real foods, to be in an environment without synthetic chemicals. But all of a sudden, bam, like that, in the short span of time, humans changed all that and started eating processed foods and chemicals and living more inside instead of outside and not moving as much and doing all the things that humans would normally do. And that's just what happens in the modern world. So as a result of that, our bodies are starting to break down under the burden or the load of all those toxins and all those things that are kind of new to nature, right? The chemicals are disrupting all of the processes in our bodies so that we're beginning to see symptoms. We give them labels. We call it asthma, or we call it autism or ADHD, because all people have different types of symptoms that show up. But at the end of the day, we're all living in the same toxic soup, and we are all just showing that our bodies can't tolerate living in that kind of toxic soup. So it's high time we start doing something about it, right?
So what you're saying is that now the world has changed so much that our bodies are trying to catch up to what's happening, and our bodies are at the expense of that.
Yeah, it's kind of think of it like a mismatch, right? So like our bodies, we're hunters and hunter-gatherers. And then, we lived in small communal villages where we would be outside all the time, and we got our food through harvesting it outside, and we process it ourselves, and there were no petrochemicals. We didn't have oil really until the 20th century. And all of a sudden we're adding these new things that we're making in a lab, and they're part of our daily life. They're in our shampoos, in our soaps, they're in our toothpaste, and everywhere around us, in the air, in the water, and the soil. So imagine the body that evolved over many thousands of years to live outside without toxic chemicals, eating real food. That body is expected to adapt to a world that's all synthetic and chemicals. Like that body's like, this is a mismatch. This is not happening. We're not doing this. And so that's when you see symptoms. That's the symptom. All symptoms is just your body's way of saying, I don't like this. There's something out of balance going on here. So our body's way of communicating to us, right?
You described before about toxic load. What is that again? And what can we do to lower our toxic load?
Yeah, so that's basically the concept that we only have a certain amount of capacity or room to tolerate different kinds of health stressors in the environment. So if you think of our bodies as like a bucket or a barrel, and that bucket or barrel only has so much room. And each toxin that goes in, so like every time you have a food coloring, or every time you have maybe some mercury that is in the air, any kind of chemical or stressor, and it could even be artificial lights, that's a stressor on the body. But think of that as like a drop of water going into that barrel. And at some point that barrel gets full. And what happens when that barrel is full? It tips over, the water spills over, and that's when you get symptoms. So the body only has so much capacity. The good news is, though, that you can actually change the shape and size of your barrel by doing certain health supporting things. So things like sleep, exercise, natural sunlight, natural movement, all of those things, having good relationships, having a strong spiritual life, that all grows your bucket. So you can tolerate more of the toxins. So it isn't just about getting the toxins out and reducing the toxic load. It's also about doing what you can to grow your barrel, make the size and shape of your barrel have more capacity.
So basically what toxin is and what toxic load is it just keeps on adding stuff to your body, and eventually your body can't really take it. And that's when you start to experience, inflammation symptoms. And by changing your lifestyle, so your body can go back to the natural and the normal way, it can,
decrease.
Decrease, and it can handle those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the body was designed to heal. The body knows how to heal. So all you need to do is get out of its way, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you do that? By reducing your toxic load, you get out of the body's way, and it just resets and goes back to what it knows to do, which is how to heal. It's like when you get a scratch.
Like a shot. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it miraculously heals. Like you don't even have to do anything. It just, it heals. So that's what our body is doing all the time. But if we keep putting dirt in that scratch, or if we keep picking at it, and putting some kind of stressor on there, it's never going to heal. So the key is let the body do what it needs to do by reducing those stressors and giving it the nutrition and the other health supports that it needs.
All right, so a lot of people are saying that autism is increasing because there's a better diagnosis, and that maybe you have autism, but you don't actually know that you have autism. So first, let's start out. But what is autism? Let's get a definition for that.
Because lots of people in the world, they
like,
might
I have autism because when I scratch my nails on glass or something, I react this way.
So what autism is it's a term that came around in the first part of the 20th century. So it's really a new term. Some version of what we call autism or looks like autism has probably been around for a very long time, but not in the numbers that we're seeing now. So all autism is a neurodevelopmental condition. And it, a lot of people describe it as a different way that the brain thinks, which is true. But if you actually look a little deeper than that, there's usually imbalances in the body that go along with that different way of thinking. So when I say different way of thinking, it might involve sensory sensitivities, like you mentioned, like, maybe you can't tolerate tactile or touch. You might have noises that are too loud or sights that are too bright. So that's sort of a different way that your sensory system works. You might not have the ability to really interact socially the way that somebody who's typical does. And for many people who have autism, they don't have the capacity to speak. And that has to do with actually something that's going on with the motor part of their brain, where the movement part of their brain is managed. So autism is, at the surface, it looks like, okay, there's some people who can't speak. There's some people who have sensory issues. There's some people who have, behavioral components, but it's actually really much deeper than that. And when you look at it, it's somebody whose body's systems, like their microbiome, their nervous system, are out of balance. And there's things that need to be regulated to help people remove some of those symptoms. The other thing I'll say about autism is that we use that term autism to talk about a very broad set of people. So somebody, like you said, might say, I have autism, but they're speaking and they're fully able to have a job and they have kids and a family and are contributing to society. That person may have an autism label because they have a certain sensory sensitivity or some social interaction issues or social anxiety. That person has the same label as, let's say, a 7-year-old child who can't speak, cannot use the toilet independently, and cannot leave the house due to some severe anxieties. And that is those are two very different people. But our society seems to put that all in one bucket, which I don't think is really the greatest idea. And I think it's because autism is so new, and in terms of how many people are affected, that people haven't really figured it out yet and haven't quite done a good job of giving the right labels or descriptions for what autism is. At the end of the day, we are all kind of on a spectrum of being a human, right? Yeah. And when the human body's out of balance, it gets symptoms. And some of those symptoms are neurological or neurobehavioral or developmental. And when that happens, that's when you start getting what looks like autism. But autism is something that's changeable in many ways, despite what many people will say about it.
Yeah, and I think a problem is that a lot of people, when they think about autism, they think about something that can never heal. Right? Like they think of it as if someone has, permanent blindness. They think that, he's autistic and he's going to be autistic for his entire life. Is that true?
It's not true. But again, autism is a broad spectrum of people with a broad spectrum of diagnoses. And there are many documented cases of people who had autism, even severe forms of autism, where they didn't have the ability to speak or take care for themselves, who through diet interventions, lifestyle interventions, and different kinds of developmental therapies actually gained the ability to speak, gained the ability to take care of themselves, gained the ability to just participate in school and social activities as if a typical person would. And that is becoming more and more known. But because it was so rare in the past, people didn't know that autism was changeable. They thought it was genetic. In fact, they spent billions of dollars looking into, the genome for all of human conditions, not just autism, but billions of dollars have been put into understanding how genetics cause conditions. And they did this for autism too. They put all this money in, and they found out that autism is not solely genetic. They thought it was, but it's not. So now that the people are beginning to understand that autism is actually about an interaction between genes and environment. So it's kind of like, you've heard the analogy that genes load the gun and the environment pulls the trigger.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot from our mom.
I'm sure. Yes. And that's exactly what's going on in autism, is that these individuals have genetic susceptibilities. Maybe you don't detoxify as well because of you have certain genes that don't allow you to detoxify as well. Or maybe you don't, make certain vitamins that other people do. Those are the kinds of things that really begin to matter in the modern world. And that is what makes you more susceptible to developing autism. But you have to have a lot of environmental insults as well in order to develop that condition. And you often have to have them during either in utero or during developmental time periods, because that's when that total toxic load matters, is because if you have a total toxic load during critical developmental times when you're learning to see and hear and interact with people, that's when you're going to actually develop the symptoms of autism.
So let me get this straight. The main reason why autism is on the rise is because of chemicals?
Well, it's chemicals are one of the reasons. So this is why we use this term of total load, because for every individual, why they develop autism is going to be different. It's like a different pathway, but it's the total load that is what matters. Like each child may have, like, maybe one child who has autism had a load of chemicals, but they also had, not enough nutrition, and they had a lot of antibiotics, and they had not a lot of sunlight, and that, hit them during their developmental time. And then they end up developing autism. And somebody else maybe never had antibiotics and maybe got tons of sunlight, but they were exposed to a high level of arsenic during a critical developmental time, arsenic being a chemical or heavy metal. So those are two very different histories or experiences, but they could both end up in autism, because in both cases, the total load was too much during the baby years, during the toddler years, during the developmental years.
Oh, you are so inspiring.
So inspiring.
So we have heard a lot from our mom about all the amazing work documenting Hope is doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. It's so amazing.
So tell us more about documenting Hope, right, Matt?
Yeah, please tell us.
So your mom was one of my first helpers in getting Documenting Hope off the ground. And what Documenting Hope was this initiative to try and collect information about the people that had reversed their chronic conditions, whether it be autism or an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's or rheumatoid arthritis. And we had heard those stories and, seen some of it documented in the medical literature, but people weren't really talking about it. So we wanted to capture more of those stories, and we wanted to see if we could do some science to prove that it's actually possible to reverse these conditions. And so that's what we do. That's what we do with Documenting Hope. We have 2 research studies that help us understand what is causing all these conditions in our kids, and another study that's helping us test the theory that you can reverse these conditions. So we have learned a lot in our studies. We've learned that the total load I've been talking about, our science and our research actually supports that hypothesis. It's true that the more stressors a child has, the worse or more complicated their health outcomes. They tend to be sicker. And then also we're learning that if you remove the stressors and you add in good supports in a bio-individual way, in a way that's specific to each child, you can help them heal. Their body knows how to heal and starts doing it. So that's what we're doing with Documenting Hope, is we're documenting the possibility of healing for children who have some kind of diagnosis. And it could be anything: obesity, asthma, ADHD, autism, all of it.
So with autism, is there a too late to fix? Is there like a point of no return? Like once you're adult, then you can't heal autism. Is there, or any age, or is it so that any age you can heal autism?
The human body can always heal at any age. The thing that's unique about autism, as opposed to, so autism actually has a lot of autoimmune components in it. So they found autoantibodies to the GI tract, to the brain, to different tissues in the body. So a lot of what is going on in autism is autoimmune inflammation. I know you guys talk about inflammation a lot. There's a lot of inflammation in autism. But what's unique about autism is that all that inflammation, all that autoimmune stuff is going on during the times when somebody is developing, again, the walking, the talking, the crawling, all those things. So you have to not only reduce the total load, heal the body, reduce the inflammation, but you also need to go back and revisit those developmental milestones that were missed. So if a child never crawled, you need to go back and revisit and actually do the crawling again. So that's what's unique about autism and healing, as opposed to like an autoimmune disease and healing. So there is never an age that's too late to do any healing. The human body can always heal, whether it's autoimmune or autism, but autism does require more work in terms of going back and going through development again in order to really get a body to full functioning and getting somebody back into place where they are able to do all the things that they would have been able to do had they not had their developmental timeline kind of interrupted. So there's always hope. Always hope.
Yeah.
Always hope.
That's why it's called Documenting Hope.
Yes, we're documenting. You guys are documenting Hope.
That's why this podcast.
So if someone has autism, where can they start?
Or if someone has a child that has autism, how can they help them?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great question. There are so many doctors out there, your mom is one of them, who are integrative or holistic in their approach and how they treat people. So one of the first things that you can do is work with some kind of practitioner. It could be an integrative physician. It could be a naturopath. It could be somebody who practices Ayurveda or traditional Chinese medicine. All of these are practices that look at the person as a whole person rather than sort of just as, discrete parts. So you can work with somebody who practices like this. So you can do tests to find out what might be out of balance in your body. You can do tests that are stool tests or urine tests or saliva tests, hair tests. There's lots of ways that you can evaluate what the imbalances might be. But even if you don't do all of that work and work with a fancy doctor like your mom, you could just start changing your diet and changing your life so that you do things that are more in sync with nature. So that means you spend more time outside. I mean, try and think about if my great-great-grandparents were here and they saw how we lived today, they
would not be happy.
They would.
Why are you putting this in your body? Come on. Don't do it.
What's this stuff? What are these screens, right? They would be like, what is this? So
they wouldn't even see artificial food as food.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's junk.
This does not come from the ground. It does not have a mother. It's not food.
Exactly. So that's actually something most people can do is you can just think, all right, how did my great-great-grandparents live? And what can I do to live more closely to how they did? More time outside, more whole natural foods. Don't put any chemicals on our skin or in our bodies. I mean, these are all the things that you guys do in your life. But most people in the modern world, the sort of industrial world, they don't live like that. Right? We do very differently. So that's really the first step. If somebody's interested in helping their child heal and from autism or any kind of condition, it's go back to the basics. Go back and live as close to nature as possible. That's even at nighttime, turning the lights down because the sun's going down, right? It's taking the artificial out and putting the natural back in.
Yeah, that's what we tell people, right, Zen? If they said, "Oh, why are you living so organic?" and well, we're not living organic. We're just trying to live the way our bodies were made to live, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not
that difficult.
It's like they put a label on organic, but they should have put on the label on things that
organic
are GMO.
food is the normal food.
Yeah, it should be the normal. Why are they putting organic?
Exactly.
The normal.
Like when you go to the store, it should say chemical on it, and the other
exactly.
Yeah.
It should have warning chemical on it. This may cause
cancer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting
to start doing that. Bigger.
You guys are going to be the ones that are going to make that change happen. Yeah. So get on that.
That's our goal. That's our mission, right, Zen?
Yeah, let's go. We have to do this, right, Mom?
Yes.
I love it.
Okay, that's so interesting. So toxins are a big piece of the puzzle for autism. How can we deal with these toxins?
Because they're everywhere, right?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
You can't escape.
I mean, like you said, the shampoo that we use has toxic chemicals. The toothpaste we use.
Go outside to a city. There's probably chemicals all over.
Exactly. It's I feel like a lot of people feel like they can't escape it.
It's very unescapable.
I mean, if you think of the toxins being two sides of an equation, one side of the equation is the toxins going in, and the other side is the toxins coming out of the body, right? So you can control that on both sides to a degree. So what goes in, just like we talked about, you just eat whole foods that are organic, and you use products if you have to use products that don't have any chemicals in them to reduce the toxins. But you're right, it's still in the air, it's still in our water, it's still in the soil. There's things that you can't totally escape. Mm-hmm. So that's where the other side of the equation comes in. So that's when you start doing things to support the body's natural detox abilities. So what helps our bodies naturally detox? If you eat a lot of foods that are cruciferous, so like the broccoli, cauliflower, kales, right? Cabbages, sauerkraut.
We love sauerkraut.
Mm-hmm. Sauerkraut is delicious.
It is so delicious. I have videos of you guys from when you were little eating that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Seeing you your whole life eating sauerkraut and all the delicious fermented foods, but that's a perfect detox food, right? Because it helps your body. It gives your body what it needs to pull those chemicals out. You can also do things like Epsom salt baths, like how relaxing.
Yeah, do lots of
that. Right? Yeah. That's how you can help your body detox. Going to the bathroom every day and getting outside in the sunlight, that helps you detox. Moving, exercise, sweating. Who loves a good sweat? I love a good sweat.
Yeah.
Our mom loves to sit in the sauna all the time. We get sweating from just like playing around, playing
Yeah.
basketball,
Especially
soccer.
in summer, it's just so easy to start sweating.
You can walk around and you're still
Just
sweating.
walk around. It's so hot. Like the sun is just blasting on your face.
And how easy is that, right? How easy
Exactly.
is that? You get a good sweat from being outside.
Yeah.
But
Oh, just walking outside.
that's keeping you healthy. That's keeping you
Right.
detox, right? So
Mhm.
easy. It's so easy.
Yeah, I think people make it more complicated than it really is.
They're like, oh, I have to go all the way to.
I have to flip my entire lifestyle upside down and go to this extreme version of
this exotic jungle where I can be one with nature.
Exactly.
I mean, that would be good too. I mean,
Yeah.
but
I mean, it would be
you
really
can
nice.
do that from home.
Yeah, you could just be like, put on some
Then
meditation.
go to your backyard.
Yeah, go to your backyard. And that
Right.
might be hard if you live in the city.
right. Or find a green space. I mean, that's
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. There
there's
must
a
be.
lot of people who maybe don't have a backyard or don't have the ability to go to the jungle to detox. But there are ways that you can find it in everyday life. Like the sauerkraut and the Epsom salt baths and going to a green space outside. There's ways that we can all sort of navigate a little bit healthier, a little bit cleaner, even if we live in very hard circumstances.
Yes.
What is one thing parents can do today to help their kids with autism?
Oh, I think if you're interested in helping your child overcome some of their worst symptoms in autism, one of the number one things you can do as a parent is find another parent who's also doing the same thing. Because remember how you guys said like you feel like you're the weird ones because you eat organic and other people don't, or they make it seem like it's weird to eat organic, but that's because we live in a culture that thinks that, which is really weird. But if you find people who think the same way you do in terms of, clean living and believe that the body can heal. You find a friend who believes that and also is trying to do that for their child. That is probably one of the most powerful things you can do because then you don't feel alone. And then you got a buddy to work on this with, right? So you got somebody that you can learn with and somebody that can support you and you can support them. So that would be the first thing I would say to parents who want to start on their healing journey is find a friend, a sibling, a family member, somebody who will do this with you and walk that journey. And we created a community called Healing Together for people that don't have a friend or don't have a sibling to do this healing work together. So we created an online community, which is not as good as an in-person, but it's an online place where parents can come and they can learn how to do this healing work together and they can feel supported and feel like there's other people. And your mom helps out by answering questions for people in this community. And she's amazing. And we're so lucky to have her. So it's community that I think is the key. It's really important.
So you were talking about your work. Now, where can people learn more about you and your amazing work?
This was amazing.
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 So you can learn more about everything we've talked about at documentinghope.com. We also have a conference every November that people can come to, and that's on the website, documentinghope.com. You can get to it that way. And Healing Together that I mentioned is also on documentinghope.com. So all the resources that we have for parents and we have a provider directory so that people can find a doctor or a health coach. So all those kinds of things you can access through our website, documentinghope.com. And you also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things, all the places at Documenting Hope.
So remember to check that out. Her work is amazing.
Amazing. Did I say amazing too much?
Never.
You can keep saying it if you could. Thank you.
All right, and thank you again for giving everyone so much hope. Parents, people who are dealing with this by themselves, so much hope.
Thank you.
Let's recap Mrs. Beth's key points.
And we know you were super busy, so thank you so much for your time and wisdom today.
Now back to the points. We are living in an environment that is different from how our ancestors have lived. As a result of the modern world, our bodies are starting to break down. Autism is an interaction from environment and genes.
Autism is a broad spectrum, but autism is changeable. There is hope. Work with a practitioner that is holistic and looks at the whole person. Then get some tests done to see what's going on.
But there is something kids can do to help their chronic conditions, including autism. Live close to nature as possible. Take the artificial out and put the nature in.
You don't need to go to an extravagant, exotic jungle. Find a green space,
Like a park.
like a park.
Like a plant.
Well, yeah, I mean, it works. Yeah, if that's the closest you got, then that's the closest you got. But yeah,
Spend more time outdoors.
spend more time outdoors and sweat.
Yes.
You got it.
Also, and do not put chemicals in your body. Eat real
not.
food. It gives your body what it needs. Toxins are everywhere. Moving, exercising, nature, sweating, pooping, and peeing. We love Epsom salt baths and sauerkraut.
Healing autism is possible, but it can be a lonely journey.
Mm.
So find another parent that is doing the same thing, and always remember that community is key. Documenting Hope has an amazing community to help parents start today.
And everyone else.
That's great.
There's so much hope. Thanks to Documenting Hope and Miss Beth Lambert.
No.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zansari.
I'm Abdullah.
I'm Odd.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mom D, and look out for my mom's book. She's working on book 8. I'm doing the illustrations, and we're also writing a book. So stay tuned. Called The Teen Health Revolution. Okay, yeah, we're gonna make a revolution out of this.
I love it.
Kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kids Show, where kids are empowering kids.
Thank you, everyone.